parketov v življenje takrat, ko luči ugasnejo. Ta panel bo potekal v angleškem jeziku, zato kdorkoli potrebuje slušalke, se lahko zglasi tam spredaj v avli, da slušalke zagotovijo. So, from playing professional basketball to life after playing basketball, it is my privilege and distinct honor to welcome on stage Mr. Steve Nash. Hi. There's a question that I wanted to ask you, right? 18 years in the NBA, 2 times MVP, 8-time All-Star, yet your first love in terms of sports was soccer, right?
That's right, yes.
Could you please entertain our audience and tell them what made you switch from soccer to basketball?
Yeah, you know, my parents are from the UK. My dad's from London, played semi-pro soccer, so my first word was goal. I was playing soccer a lot as a kid, but we moved to Canada when I was a baby, so played everything. When I was 13, I went to a new school, and all the kids on the playground were playing basketball. So I really started playing basketball and stopped playing soccer to be with my friends, and fell in love with it quickly.
Thank you. It was an easy choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a seat. 21 years with the Dallas Mavericks. Finals MVP, NBA champion, 14 times All-Star, Mr. Dirk Nowitzki. There you go.
How you
Hi.
doing?
Good, good.
Thanks for having me.
Great having you here. I have a question. 21 years is an era. In today's world of, you know, swipe right till you get it right, how'd you manage to stay with the Mavs for so long? It spells loyalty.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I first got to Dallas, and obviously Steve was there and Mike Finley, and they were great to me at the beginning. I think things changed when Mark Cuban bought the team in my second year, and we became, you know, good friends and had a good relationship, and he was always super loyal to me, and the city kind of took me under their wings, and so I kind of grew into the community, and then I always knew that after a while that I wanted to finish my career here, and I was very fortunate to stay there. You know, and now I live there. It's my new home, so I kind of, like I said, grew into this community, and yeah, and so it's kind of fortunate. I didn't really know what to expect when I first got there, and then just kind of it grew from there.
Thank you. Seems like Texas chooses you well. Okay. Next up, Mr. Bill Duffy. He's the head of the basketball division at W Sports, managing countless players' basketball careers. There you go.
Thank you.
There's a question I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Years ago when you started in your post-playing career, your first client wasn't a basketball player, it was a football player, right? So how'd you switch to basketball?
Well, I was a basketball player, so that was my first preference, but you know, I was a young man. I was 22, 23 years old, and so I wasn't capable at that point to have players trust me. So football is a lot easier in the U.S. American football, there's hundreds of players, so it was easier to start. So, but I started to study what the contracts are going to look like in the NBA, so I kind of segued into that. So it was a pretty easy decision. So
you didn't take the easy way, but still, football is the way to start.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That time, that was
at that time. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, our last. Oh, sorry. Yes. Give it up for our panelists.
Give it up. Give it up.
Last but not least, I believe our next panelist needs no introduction. However, give a hand for our beloved golden captain, Goran Dragić. Goran, before we start, quick question. As Steve, right, we almost lost you to soccer when you were a kid. Is that true?
Yes, it's a pretty much similar story. I did start playing soccer. I had a leg injury, so my mom said to me, "No more soccer for you," and One of my best friends, he was playing basketball, so I went to watch practice. I was sitting in the bleachers, and they only had 9 guys. And the coach at that time, who was my first coach, Pastor Todorović, he was like, "Hey kid, you up there, we need one more. Do you want to play 5-on-5?" And that's how I started playing basketball.
Oh, thank you. What a great story. What a great story. Well, number one, thank you to Moitza that she forbid you from playing basketball, and then...
It's her fault.
It's her fault. Great, great. So we'll discuss how transitioning from a playing career is a major shift, requires dedication, resilience, a lot of adaptability. Some bumps and bruises and challenges along the way. Now, Steve, given your transition from professional basketball player to your coaching career, right? What are some of the most surprising aspects of this shift and significant emotional and mental adjustments? Share that with our audience, please.
In respect to coaching, or
yeah,
in respect to transition? Coaching was interesting. You know, I hadn't planned to coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a unique situation in Brooklyn, and so they knocked on my door and said, "Would you try to help us out?" So it was a quick, obviously, transition for someone that wasn't previously coaching. He didn't have the desire to coach prior. The game had changed, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the type of you know, we go through generations, we go through cycles, and I think it was a completely different cycle in the 6 years since I retired already.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with a different dynamic, I think. You're dealing with a league that had really gone to player empowerment in the extreme. You know, a lot of it is managing personalities, managing the dynamics between front office, ownership, players, agents. That became, I think, much more of the puzzle than in cycles or periods prior to that. So that was a big change. That was something that I think took a lot of focus from me, especially as a young coach, someone that was developing. It was, you know, that was a huge component of my job that I didn't necessarily expect to be as robust, so to speak.
Mm. So managing all those big egos, right? It was quite a challenge.
Yeah, I think just all the dynamics, the personalities, the power that the player holds nowadays. It was just it had changed quickly, and so not right, not wrong. Just that was what was in front of us, and that was what we had to spend a lot of time, I think, trying to sort out, at least in our culture at the time.
Thank you. Dirk, 21 years with the Mavs, your playing career, and the German national team. When did you feel that was the right time to retire? Did this something happen, or how did you tell us the story?
Well, I think I missed the right time. If you watched my last 2 years hobble around, that was a tough one. I mean, it's always hard to find the right moment for a competitor. I think in your mind, you always think you can still do it. But your body is letting up a little bit. So I had some injury problems the last 2 years, and so the decision was kind of made for me that it was time to go. But you know, I think mentally, I think I could have done one more year and be there with Luka and help him out and see him grow, just to be a part of that. But just physically, I could not keep up. I mean, the game has gotten even faster now. Everybody's playing small ball, everybody's shooting and running, so it was already hard for me to keep up in my mid-30s, let alone in my early 40s. So it was time to go, and I was a little bit afraid of what's coming after, I got to say, but it's been wonderful. I can't complain. We travel a lot, and so I was kind of actually looking forward after the same routine for 20-something years to get some new things in my life, start some new challenges. So it's been fun, and I'm sure Goran is finding his way, and there's lots of stuff to look forward to and lots of opportunities out there.
Thank you. Now you're an advisor for the Mavs front office, dealing with your advising, right? How did you build credibility? How did you jump from being a player, build these professional capabilities as an advisor? Is this a long process?
Well, advisor is really an interesting word. I'm not really sure I'm advising much.
Okay.
Honestly, it was kind of like there was some shift. Coach Carlisle left, and there was, a shift in a general manager position. And so Mark just called me one day and said if I want to be involved a little bit in the new GM and search and a new coach search. And so that summer was a little busy. But honestly, they have good people in place to do their job. So I still talk to him. Jason Kidd, obviously, is a good friend of mine. We won the championship together. He's the coach now in Dallas. So, you know, we talk basketball all the time, and we run stuff by each other. But it's not like I go to the gym every day. I see the team. And it's like I didn't want a full-time job. I think I'm fine where I'm at right now, where I can pick and choose what I want to do. And so advisor is probably a little strong word. I talk basketball with coaches when I see them, and other than that, I do my own thing and I travel the world with the kids.
Great. When you love what you do, you don't call it advisory, so it's a great thing. Thank you. Bill, you've built a successful basketball agent career. Now, when you were playing, was that something you were thinking about while you were playing basketball?
Yeah, I was basically a failure in that sense because I was a high school All-American. I got drafted in the NBA, so my experience forced me to have alternatives. You know, these guys were just amazing, some of the best players in the history. So when I was young, I always thought you can't just rely on basketball in my position. So I educated myself. I really studied the game. So guys like Kevin McHale, who's actually here, was my roommate in college. And Michael Thompson, who's Klay Thompson's father, was a senior when I was a freshman in college. He was the first pick in the draft. So even though I was 17 years old, I was kind of advising these guys because I knew who the agents were. I knew the business ecosystem of the NBA. So I kind of had an early preparation. And the funny story is the first practice at Minnesota, we had like 6 NBA players, and I couldn't get one rebound. These guys they got 7-footers climbing all over the place. I said, I better be going to class. You know, and so it's just been an evolution. But I've always been like a leader, a mentor among all my teammates, and then that segued into a career. And starting with working with Steve, and I've been around Dirk. I was with them the first day they were together in Dallas, and then Goran, working with my partner, Rade Filipovic. And we were here 27 years ago and helped Rasho. Okay. We brought Kevin McHale over, and that was what started his journey being drafted by the Timberwolves. So for me, just understanding, and I always tell kids, like, play basketball, right? But also educate yourself and learn. There's business opportunities in the game, and that's been my journey.
So having a plan B is very, very important. You know, maybe your career is cut short in kind of injury, maybe something else happens. So how important would you say, like you said, you advise your clients and
Plan
kids?
B is important for normal people, but not like these guys.
Okay.
Plan A was plenty good. So, but no, you just have to be smart. Like in anything, you plan your future, you have a perspective on what's next. And for me, it was always wanting to stay in the game and be able to lead and guide young men. So
you see, most players, a lot of players, not most players, well, when the lights go off, they don't know what to do, right? And that's something where this advisory and mentorship role kicks in.
It's traumatic for many if you're unprepared. It's like a death because you stop doing something that's your identity. So it's important you have good people around you that keep you grounded and keep the normalcy of life because, you know, people are fickle. When you're famous, you get hurt and everyone, you know who your friends are and stuff like that. So I always like to be one to keep stability in their life and support them on and off the court. So that's very important.
Thank you. Goran, you walked right into the next question. You haven't officially retired yet. There's a game to be played. Now,
okay, I'm already retired. The last game that I played was 1 year ago, and yeah, if I'm honest, it's a little bit scary. You know, my whole life I was bouncing the ball. You know, I had my schedule set. I knew when to go to practice, when to go to the game, and suddenly that's over. You know, that feeling of competitive. I mean, just to be with my teammates, locker room, game, that excitement, you know, it's gone. You know, I need to find new things, how to, you know, how to get my life around. And but you know, it's good. You know, at the end of the day, like Dirk and Steve, they both know I was not healthy anymore to play. My left knee is not good. And, you know, at that time was a pretty tough time for me. I was going through divorce and everything. And, you know, everything kind of combined together. And, You know, that was the thing. I want to be more time with my kids, and it was an easy decision to make at that time, you know. Right now I still miss it. I still miss games. I miss locker room. I don't miss practices, but especially in Miami. Where's Andy? Andy, you know, our practices in Miami was tough, but I wouldn't change it. My career, I was satisfied with my career. I give everything what I got, and right now I'm happy. No pain anymore. So.
No pain anymore. Great. Now, if somebody asked you, what would you miss the most? Is it camaraderie, teammates, locker room, road trips, winning, losing, crying, consulting?
All that, yeah. But if I had to choose, I would say locker room. And then bus drives on the plane. I remember my first days with Phoenix. Steve Nash was our captain. I remember when we were filming on the plane and doing those funny videos. I mean, you know, just a kid from Europe, you know, coming to a different country, didn't know the language. Suddenly I was sitting next to the two-time MVP, Steve Nash. You know, it's frightening. I was like, and then I didn't get much of playing time. Then I start doubting myself, you know. But, you know, all these teammates, coaches, Steve was there for me, and that's a huge thing, and especially like Dirk mentioned before, to have a mentor in your life. That's something that maybe people outside, they don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Now, let's move to a bit of different aspect of today's game, or basketball. Now, basketball has given you a unique, very transferable set of skills. Leadership, taking accountability, teamwork, and so on and so forth, right? Now, Steve, coaching is much different than playing. How has your experience as an MVP, as an assist leader, as a coach's right-hand man helped you transition to coaching the Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, I think the easy part for me was I felt always quite natural in a leadership role. I felt comfortable connecting teammates, speaking for the group in a sense, leading by example. So I think the role of a coach, there's a lot of transferable skills there. But what is actually difficult from a coaching perspective is that it's a totally different leadership. You know, I think good teams always have leadership amongst the players. Mm-hmm. You need leaders in the locker room. You need people that are keeping the standards high, setting an example. When you're coaching, you have to lead in a different way. You have to lead, I think, in smaller moments, because you recognize what I was surprised when I coached, like you're not really with the team that much. Mm-hmm. You know, the players, you're in the locker room, you're on the bus, you're on the plane, you're always together. The coaches, you know, you have them at practice, of course, but it's really, you have them like before the game for 5 minutes, you have them at halftime for 5 minutes, you have them after the game for 5 minutes, you know. Those are the only times you really get to address the team. You don't get to have casual conversations like the players do all the time. Now, I tried to make that a part of my coaching style, was to always connect with all the players every day at practice individually. But there's a lot that transfers, but it is different. And I think that it's important to build a culture, to create an environment where people believe in what you're trying to accomplish. They believe in your motives, your work ethic, and that you want to see them be their best.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, I think everyone in whatever field you're in, if you're in a leadership position, those people that are going to follow you need to feel that you want them to be their best, and you're going to help them become the best version of themselves. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's really the central theme.
It's really important you create an environment when people can flourish, right? That's something that's extremely important. Now, when you're a player, and coaches and players sometimes don't get along, right? Was there something that you said, if I'm ever a coach, I will never, ever, ever do this to my players? Has that ever happened then when you were in a coaching role?
I think the most important thing is different for different dynamics, different personalities, is being honest with the players. You know, having to, you know, pull players aside and be clear and honest with what you're feeling. As a player, you always felt bad as a player or for your teammate if, you know, they felt like they were unsure of their role. They were unsure of why they weren't playing or why they were, being criticized. So I think it's really important to be honest.
Yeah.
Now you can deliver that in different ways. That's the art and the emotional intelligence, I think, that comes with it. But it's important to be clear and honest with players so that they're not unsure. I think that lends itself to eating away at your culture. And so that communication is key.
Thank you. Goran, people say, and I can attest to that you are a born leader. You inspire. What's the secret?
No, I wasn't. I don't think so. I think I learned from Steve, from all these players. I was part of the team, but I do have to admit the most impactful on my career was with Miami Heat, with Eric Spoelstra. I remember I was sitting with him in his office, and he was saying, you are point guard, you have to be vocal, you have to tell the players where to go, then you have to talk, after the game, at halftime. And, for me personally, when I got to the States, that was tough because of the language barrier. I still got a accent.
No.
And then, some players, they tease you in the locker room, you don't feel comfortable, and so you have to grow, you have to get that tough skin, how to say. And but I do have to admit that when I got that with Miami Heat, they kind of throw me out there, D-Wade, Udonis Haslem, Chris Bosh, and just mold me, and then kind of carry on to my national team. And on the end, I think so I did it too much. I was a little bit too nervous. I was yelling at everybody, but yeah.
It was for a reason, don't worry about it. You're forgiven. I'm kidding. Bill, let me ask you this. Your understanding of team strategy and team dynamics and teamwork, how did that help you in transitioning from being a player, like you said, in Minnesota, 7-footers couldn't get a rebound, didn't know what to do, and how is it helping you today, understanding all those little moments in your career today, that skill set you acquired as a player?
It's really challenging. This is my 41st year as an agent, so I've been through every cycle where there's big economics, and Steve said the player empowerment. I mean, these guys were making 30, 40, $50 million a year. Before, guys were making, like $2 million. So that whole dynamic has shifted. But the quality of leadership and communication and honesty, like those don't change. So it's really just developing respect from the players and telling them the truth in love. I say that because sometimes it's constructive criticism that people don't want to hear that, but you have to have the respect from them to explain to them, what's right, what's wrong, how you can improve. And it takes a lot of energy. I mean, the NBA is crazy. There's a lot of stuff going on off the court around these athletes that is really hard to describe. And so it's like you're doing your job, but 90% of what I do has nothing to do with basketball. It's keeping their lives in order, the people around them, and all that. It's really challenging. But I have when I was a young boy, my mom used to say, you should be a priest because you're always trying to help people. So it was kind of my nature just to help people. So that's natural. Now it's at a high level of business, but I just like to help people and see people do well. So it's more natural for my personality just to be helpful.
Yeah, but the skill is definitely transferable.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Thank you. Dirk, the panel before that mentioned how some of the NBA stars, namely Luka Dončić or so, play for the national teams. If I remember correctly, you played the qualifying games for Germany. Could you talk about that for a minute? So all the business schedule, you flew from the United States, played the qualifying matches, then went back. That's sacrifice. That's a skill. Learning to sacrifice and taking accountability. Could you share a few thoughts on that?
Yeah, I always loved playing for my country. I really did. It meant a lot to me. I played in junior national team when I was 14, 15 years old, traveling throughout Europe, and I felt like not only the national federation, but basketball gave me so much, and I always wanted to pay German basketball back. And we played in the NBA, so with the time difference, always played at night, and so a lot of Germans or German fans couldn't really see me play all the time. And so for me, it was important to play in the summer, play some exhibition games, play with the national team. So fans, if they wanted to, got to see us up close, and then of course play the big tournaments was also super fun, and we had some success. So I don't regret ever playing for the national team. It's an honor, and we had a great run there over a couple of years.
Thank you.
2005 Belgrade against Slovenia.
Yeah, we saw that. Remember?
I do remember that one.
Everybody remembers that. It's a sore memory, but again, you're forgiven. There's a word that gets thrown around a lot: mentorship, being the mentor. All of you guys are mentors by default, I can tell. But I'm gonna start with you, Steve. Gogi came to Phoenix, 19 years old, didn't know what to expect, and you took him under your wing. What did that do for you?
I think it's rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always, I think, there's an intrinsic value, and it's not just giving; you're receiving, obviously, by giving. So it was a pleasure for me always to try to help my teammates. Goran being a point guard as well, coming from Europe. You know, I didn't come from Europe, but I did come from Canada, which nowadays I think has the second most NBA players. But at the time, there was one or two of us, so it felt like a whole other galaxy when I went to the NBA. And so I could relate in a sense to both these guys. You know, Dirk came to the NBA a couple of years after me. We were teammates his rookie year as well. So just trying to help, be a great teammate and support. You know, Goran was, easy to support. He was a great competitor. Someone that played hard all the time, was a great teammate, was working, to get better every day. He went through some tough times, like he said, at the start of his career, which Dirk and I also went through really difficult times, so we can relate to that. And, there's very few players in the NBA that don't go through difficult times. So it's not the difficult times that are rare, it's the ones that are able to fight through those times. So sometimes you need a little support to get through it. Goran was exceptional in his approach. A great human being, great teammate, great competitor. And, he said earlier that he started to doubt himself, and those are the moments that really matter. Where do you go from there? How do you respond? And you could tell that the fire was there. The fire was there to respond, to fight, to stay the course. And so that's what really matters. Everyone out there that's in and around the NBA can make plays, but can you make plays when it matters, when you're not doing well, when things are against you, or when the lights are brightest? And Goran was never afraid of that. So an incredible person and player to mentor. It makes you look good because he became an NBA All-Star, but really it's the intrinsic values that he brought every day to compete, to get better, to be a great teammate, to play the right way, to have the right approach, to be a good human being. That's why he had a great career, not because of his mentor. And but I'm happy to take a ton of credit, especially while I'm here in Slovenia. So.
You mentioned before you get to reply your next step. You mentioned a skill that's mostly overlooked: being a great teammate. Real quick, what do you mean when you say being a great teammate?
Well, putting the team first, putting the team value, trying to protect the team, protect the group, to recognize we're playing a team sport. So whatever it takes to keep that team on the right course. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't have the right attitude, you don't have the right awareness of what the group needs or where the group's trying to grow, you're going to be a detriment to the ultimate success or failure of the team. So being a great teammate is a huge part of a great player's responsibility. But it's also the responsibility of every player on the team if you want to be a successful group and have a great culture. We could do all the thought exercises and write on a board all the values, core values, cultural behaviors, but it really comes down to good people. If you have a good group of human beings, you don't need to do a thought exercise. It happens. So being a great teammate is a huge component of success.
Thank you. Goran, you wanted to say something, so I was going to ask you, how did Steve's mentorship impact you?
No, a lot. I mean, like I said before, coming from Slovenia, first time in the States, different type of basketball, and he was always there for me. I remember as soon as I walked into the locker room, my locker was next to Steve. I was like, oh my God. But a lot of talks on the plane, especially At the games, you know, I struggled, a lot of turnovers. He would always pull me on the side and, hey, keep your head up, forget about the past, what happened, you know, just play on. And but I do have to admit, I was always feisty. You know, Steve is too kind, and I was always hack him at practice, always holding jersey and this. But just overall, I mean, he was always there for me, and not only me, for the whole team. The one of the funny thing is, I still remember like it was yesterday. He was playing pick and roll, and he passed a bounce pass to Amari Stoudemire. It was a perfect pass. Amari fumbled the ball. He didn't catch the ball, and Steve was like, "Hey, it was bad pass. My fault. My fault." And me and LB, Leandro Barbosa, we look at each other and it's like, that was a perfect pass. But I understand now, he wants his teammate to feel comfortable, to have a lot of, you know, how would I say?
Confidence.
Confidence, yes. And that was one of the best quality of Steve. I mean,
if you're confident, the transition goes a lot more smoothly. Now, being a recipient of the best in the game, of mentorship, how do you give back? National team, younger players?
I mean, it's, I always love basketball. You know, I think so for me, it was an easy choice to make to play for Slovenia national team because that was a good preparation for my next season in NBA. You know, I was with my friends, we grew up together, we play for the same country, the fans are awesome here, yeah, that was my preparation for the next season.
Because I remember when you speak, everybody listens. When other people talk, not everybody listens, but when you spoke, everybody actually listened. And this is something that transferred from your experience on the court to leadership and mentorship.
Yeah, you know, it's phases. When 2006, first time playing for Slovenia national team, my captain was Russian Stojanović. You know, he was my idol. I met him when I was 11 years old. He's a godfather to my kids right now, and we're really close. And, you know, he kind of set the path for me, national team. And then, you know, when the responsibilities, you know, came to me, then I had to, you know,
pass it forward.
Exactly, had to be a leader, have to, you know, lead the team. Then Luka came. Now he's the Luka's team, and he's doing an amazing job. So it's just, you know, you're passing the torch, basically.
Thank you. Now, Dirk, you're coming from Germany, 19-year-old kid, 9th pick in the first round of the draft. Great expectations. New culture, new country. And then there's a couple of names that popped up. One of your friends and coaches, Holger, and then Donnie Nelson, and then Rick Carlisle. And obviously Steve, how important were these people in development of your career, professional career, and as you as a person?
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard for me at the beginning, coming from Europe. The culture was different. There was a little bit of a language barrier then as well, and never lived by myself, so it was really hard. The game was so much faster and more athletic than I would ever have thought. So I was struggling big time. But I leaned on my support system. Well, it's family, my coach Holger. I'm sure everybody knows who's done so much for me. I met him when I was 15, and he mentored me throughout my whole career. And then, you know, my family would come when I was struggling, when I had doubts, when I wanted to move back. Did I do the right decision? Should I have stayed in Europe? Should I have gone to college? And yeah, it's important to lean on friends, on teammates. And I always say Steve and Michael Finley is another friend of ours. They were very important for me early in my career. Their support, just sometimes little things of let's go eat. Let's not sit in a hotel and be homesick. Let's go out. Let's go to movies. Let's do something. Let's go back and work out. So these little things were huge for me, and I'll never forget. And Steve knows this. I'll be forever grateful for what he's done for me early in my career, and just taken me under his wing, and I learned so much from him. And yeah, but nobody makes it by himself. Yeah, there's a group behind. There are so many people that help and then support, and we need all of them to make it through.
Now, there's another kid that came from Slovenia at 19. He's not here today. I'm not sure he's here today. Luka Dončić. Came to Dallas. You were there, established, all-star, champion. What did you do for him? How did you make him feel welcome? How was that transition?
I think the transition was fairly smooth for him. I think I played with him 1 year. My last year was his first year, and I think we all didn't know how good he was.
Okay.
You know, he was, EuroLeague, MVP, whatever, but that doesn't mean anything when you come to the NBA. And so I think people were like, okay, he's going to come, we're going to show him a little bit, and right away in practice you can see how he sees the game, how he reads the game, his passing, his scoring was just out of this world. So it was a pleasure for me to be there for his first year, maybe help him a little bit, maybe he had some questions, but honestly, if you watch him play, he plays like a 35-year-old. It's not like...
no transition needed.
No, he plays so smart, wicked basketball IQ. What he sees on the floor, I never saw. So it's not like I can tell him, you got to pass there. He knows better how to handle big moments. And so, we talk basketball often, every now and then, but it's not like I have to mentor much. He is who he is. He's an incredible talent, incredible player, and we're just fortunate to be there. And in his first year, when he kind of found his way and really grown into one of our best players already in year one, and to be a go-to player already in year one. And so there was a fun moment there, transition for him from working hard and getting the ball in big moments. And that was the start of something special. And we've been witnessing, obviously, his greatness for a couple of years now.
Thank you. Bill, there's a question. Traditionally, the role of the sports agent has evolved significantly. I remember when I was playing, the agents were, responsible for securing the contract and some endorsements, and that's it. You don't hear from that person for another year or two. Now, one of your players, your clients, I'm not going to tell who, called you a guardian angel. Very Jerry Maguire-like thing. How do you build such relationships?
I think just being honest and present. You ask about mentorship. Mentorship is an action word. It's not what you say, it's what you do. You have to be present, you have to be engaged, and you have to, ingratiate yourself in their lives so they know that you care about them. And a lot of people, fans just like the players because they're stars. You're an agent or a manager, you have to care about them as a person and their families and their well-being, their emotional well-being. So the responsibility of an agent, I take it a little bit differently than most agents because I really know that I care about everything in their lives, right? So, a little bit of story here, like when Goran came out, we wanted him in Phoenix because he was going to be in the late first round or second round, and we wanted him to be mentored by Steve, so we kind of were able to manipulate that because we knew that'd be a good start for his career, much like I wanted Luka in Dallas because Dirk was there, and Steve had a good run when he was there. So before the draft, you have the opportunity to, control things to a degree, and those guys were placed in strategic situations because whether it's the market or the ownership or the mentoring, like Luka has benefited greatly and still does by Dirk. And Goran, we knew that having Steve there, who was also our client, was amazing to start his career. And that's kind of what an agent has to think about is the environment, the culture of the team. Because you see top players go to bad teams and they don't have great careers or they get traded right away. So you got to be mindful of the situation and understand that,
Thank you. Now, today's and tomorrow's event is about charity, about philanthropy. Our panelists are great in that area as well. Steve, I looked at your foundation website. Loved your mission statement. Books matter. It's an amazing, I love books. Could you tell what do you guys do?
Well, it's funny, I think one of our mission statement actually, although we use that as well, is growing health in kids. It's pretty broad. We focus on kids, newborn to to high school age. But we don't have necessarily one main avenue. So it depends on the cause, but also centered around kids. I think for us, we just try to have an impact on their well-being, whether it's education, health, emotional well-being as well. We've done things from as disparate as child abuse prevention to physical literacy to education. So for us, it's I didn't have a cause that was necessarily near and dear to me, but I've always loved kids and always loved the innocence, the precociousness, the potential. Know how much influence they can take on. So trying to just be as positive and as supportive in as many areas with children has been really rewarding. And I think for us, it's it's really just as rewarding to work with people to make an impact. So who can we partner with? Who can we, theorize with to think of new ways to be able to help kids? So it's been a lot of fun for us, and it's been very rewarding. Like we said earlier, when you give, you get. And we've been blessed to be in a position where we've been able to help some kids through the years.
Thank you. Dirk, your foundation, could you share a particularly impactful initiative? You guys do a lot for the kids too.
Yeah, I mean, same with Steve a little bit. We support children's charities. We raise funds for all sorts of children's organizations, mostly in Dallas, some in Germany, so our foundation in Germany and in Dallas. In Germany, the newest thing we started was a mentorship program, speaking of mentor stuff, where we teach young coaches that about ages from about 18 to 25, 26, on how do you teach kids? What's their values? What are your values? And I think they get to know themselves first, and then you teach them how to really focus on kids, and how do you teach them how to listen and discipline, and so that's been a great project of ours the last 3-4 years, and it's been fun. It's not only basketball coaches, it's across all sports, whether it's soccer, handball, anything really. So I think that's something that's been super interesting in Germany, and it's been going really well and interesting.
Thank you. Goran, what motivated or inspired you to start your? Was it playing here in the playgrounds of Koseze with not that much that you started your foundation? Was it something else?
The main thing was giving back to the place where I grew up in Slovenia. I love working with kids too, so you're part of my basketball camp, and we just finished our 10th year. Then I'm more involved with the kids, with the sports kids. So we wanna, build new basketball courts outside. We already managed to do 6 of them, and just help as much as possible for the young athletes to have the same chances as we had. So the main reason was to give something back where I grew up. So.
Thank you. So you guys can see transition from being a professional athlete has been great for all these people. Real quick, what's next for you?
It's a great question. I think it's one that I think about. Coaching was a great experience for me and my family. I didn't want to be a career coach. Okay. I just wanted to help that project, and so I don't feel like coaching is necessarily in my future. I'm very focused at this time on having as big an impact on my kids as possible. Okay. Being, maybe some call it a father, some call it an Uber driver, but basically just getting kids up in the morning, getting them off to school, picking them up, taking them to all their practices, trying to work at their academic, athletic, communication skills, all that stuff. I guess I could say I hope it doesn't sound bad, but I've earned the opportunity to choose, and to be able to choose to give my kids as much attention as I can at this stage in my life has been really rewarding. So that's really where my focus is. But of course, there's always projects. There's always, affiliations and partnerships and things that are interesting. So I always have something going on, but definitely leaving that prime position and the most of my energy and time for my family at this point.
Thank you. Dirk, German national team coaching, yes, no, maybe?
It just got a new one. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I didn't.
Announced a few days ago. They have a new coach. That's not really my gig. Same as Steve. Before, I didn't see coaching in my future. But you know, on his example, things can change very quickly. But I don't really see myself as a team coach. Now I can see myself a little bit like an individual coach. What my mentor has done with me, find some talented kids, work with them on a daily basis. I think that's something that could be in my future, but there's really no plans laid there. Like Steve, we have young children, so I'm focusing a lot of time now on the kids. I travel some. I'm on the board of FIBA, so I go to all the big tournaments. I go to Geneva a couple times a year. We have a family office in Dallas, so we do some business stuff, some small investments. So just learning new things, I would say, some new interests. That's been, yeah, super interesting the last 5 years. But eventually I'm going to stick around basketball. I'm not just sure what capacity.
Thank you. Now, Bill, a lot of former basketball players, none of you guys though, went into sports agency, wanted to become an agent. So I know what to do, I want to become an agent. That's, fairly speaking, very basic. Now, what would be your advice to an aspiring sports agent?
Don't do it. No, it's really a hard job. I've been married for 35 years. I have 5 children. My wife, who's here, she's a saint. Like, she's allowed me to do this and raise these kids and travel all over the place. But it's really hard. The skill set is really hard, like the understanding of the collective bargaining agreement and trades and finding the nuances to negotiate the best contracts is not easy. So you have to, it takes about 10 years, I think, if you're doing it, to really learn to have respect from the general managers, interact with the media, to do a really good job. And I take pride in every contract, every relationship, that things are done at an elite level. So I discourage a lot of people. If you're not all in, like, this isn't like go home at 5 o'clock, like, my phone is on all the time. I've been in Europe since the Olympics, and 3 o'clock I'm on the phone. I'm in the bathroom and my wife's sleeping in the other room, like, working all the time. So it's not very many people are equipped to handle all.
So it is like Jerry Maguire.
100%. 100%.
Okay.
But I would say Bill's been my agent since I was 20, 22 years old. He's been an agent for a long time. His phone has been on a long time. It's incredible to have that type of longevity. Obviously, he's Russia's agent, Goran's agent, Luka's agent, so he has ties to this country. But you have to have an incredibly, I believe, high character. It's not a high character business at all times. And
Need a partner?
This guy is like, I can't even describe to you. I mean, I love Goran to death, but we've been together for 25 years, and he's one of the closest people in my life that I love as a friend. Like, I mean, I've learned a lot from him because of he's got this approach. He's a Zen person. He's brilliant, team-oriented. So I've learned a lot. Even with the training, like, he was one of the first clients with taking care of his body, how he eats, and I've incorporated that into our clients. So he's just one of the closest people in my life and forever. So, you know.
Thank you. I could pick your brain for days on end, but time is up, like Igor said before. Any questions from the audience? Don't be bashful. We have 2, 3 hands.
Thank you so much. Tom Ilyash, Arctur. Thank you so much for this round table. I was enjoying every second. A question for Goran. When you went to Phoenix, I remember in one of the first interviews you said you were eating cookies, and then Steve Nash approached you and said, "Come on, don't touch this anymore. This is like..." And then 6 years later, we were cheering for our team, of course, the Slovenian team in Barcelona for the World Championship. And I saw you, your brother Zoran, and Edo Muric eating junk food in McDonald's. So
I can only do so much, you know. I'm not Slovenian. I didn't have the passport, so.
Yeah, I didn't listen. I'm sorry.
No, yeah,
yeah, but that's true. I was sitting next to Steve on the plane, and every time when he was eating lunch or something, it was like rice, plain rice, chicken, vegetables, and fruits. and I was eating everything, you know. I was like, and then, you know, he was talking, yeah, if you want to play longer and, you know, have a longevity, you need to change the habits and this. And, you know, I was 20 years old. And after in my career, when I started playing with Miami Heat, then when my diet really changed. You know, we had body fat every Monday. I had to be in the best shape of my life. And I think so those 6-7 years, I rarely eat cookie or dessert, so a little bit.
You're allowed now.
I'm allowed now. So.
Sacrifice.
But yeah, for national team, you know, you're away. You don't know the restaurants. You're spending the whole, I don't know, 1 month in the same hotel, same food. So sometimes, you know, with the teammates, we need a treat. And, you know, at that time it was McDonald's, so yeah.
Thank you. Wait, a couple of hands. Could you go right there? Yeah. No?
Hello. Yes.
Okay.
Right here. First, thank you for this very interesting panel. I have a question from Mr. Nash. As a former elite athlete, you had to make quick and strategic decisions on the court. Now you translated these skills into the world of business. What advice would you give to this business community regarding decision-making and strategy? And as well, how do you see opportunities for strengthening collaboration between Slovenia and US, particularly in the fields of sports and business?
Well, I think the panel prior to us talked about the relationship of great athletes, what they can do for the community, for the country. Obviously, having some incredible world-class athletes from Slovenia, I think it brings an awareness to your country. It brings that which can bring tourism, partnerships, business development, whatnot. I think sport is really a connector in the world, so I think that's really important. As far as advice or qualities that making quick decisions. Quick decisions is fine, but good decisions are better. So I think it's just really important that first we want to make the right decision. We want to have good people around us to collaborate with. We want to have a process that leads us to a sound decision. There's a great quote. I'm not going to get it right, but it's something like, we don't rise to our best level every day. We fall to the level of our systems. That's the baseline. Is if we have a great system, our floor is a high standard. So I think that's really important, is creating a system, the values that lead into creating a system to make the sound decision time and time again. You make that process, you rely on that process over time. You're not going to get every decision right, but if you get the majority of them right, you're winning and you're making an impact. So putting thought behind it, having the right basis for your plan, your system, your collaborations, I think that's key. That's the process. The outcome takes care of itself.
Thank you. More questions? There's 2 hands. We'll have one more question after that because we need to continue with our panel.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here and all of you having you here. I have 2 questions for all of you and from Mr. Dirk. One question is, you were a great inspiration, Goran Dragić and you also, to all the kids who are playing basketball. How do you see now an impact and influence of players like Luka Dončić, Nikola Jokić, of course, their big friendship? And the second question is, we all know that you like tennis. So what do you think about Novak Djokovic, Alexander Zverev? Who is your favorite and who is better, you or Steve Nash? Who won today?
I got him this morning, I think. No, Steve is an incredible player. So we have some good battles out there, and huge tennis fan. Tennis was my first sport, so I've been following tennis for the last 30-something years, 40 years, and growing up with Boris Becker, Steffi Graf in that era, and so I've been following the sport ever since. And yeah, favorite of all time is probably Roger Federer. I mean, just how smooth he played, the elegance is just something that I've never seen before. Always looked like he never sweat on the court. That's something I always admired. Who's my favorite now? I mean, it's hard to say. There are so many great players out there, and they're fun to watch. But what Nole is doing has been incredible. Now winning the Olympic gold this summer as well, so he's probably the GOAT of all time for sure. As far as European basketball, I mean, it's been incredible to watch the growth. I mean, when I first got in the league, late 90s, there were a few Euros around, but not that many. And now, 20-something years later, there's many on many teams. There's MVPs, there's role players, there's you know, franchise players. So that's been fun to watch the growth, really, of basketball worldwide, but mostly also in Europe. So many great players. The talent pool has gotten bigger. The coaches have gotten better, and so you can see how good the talent is, and it's been incredible to watch. So happy for all these guys, you know, Luka and Jokić, obviously, and many more. Giannis, MVP, a couple times champion in the NBA. So many great talents from Europe are in the league now, carrying the league and the face of the franchise. And so that transition the last 20-something years has been fun to watch for me.
Thank you. We have one last question. Yeah.
At first, Bojan Vinolović, Sportal Serbia. At first, I want to thank Goran for making this event, and the list of players is telling us a lot about your greatness. And I wanted to ask all of you, who is your favorite player from ex-Yugoslavia, from the older generation of players?
You want to start, Steve?
From all generations, or just?
Yeah, older generations. Well, older.
Older. Wow. Goran by far. Favorite for sure. Favorite for sure. You know, obviously there's a great history in this region of sports in general, but basketball for sure has been incredible. But you know, it's also laid the foundation for Luka and for Nikola Jokić. I mean, these two guys are just world class, and as good as, you know, in the conversation for, you know, as good as almost anybody who's ever played the game. So that's a testament not only to them in this region, but also the players, you know, the legendary players that played in this region for 20, 50, 70 years. So wonderful to come to this part of the world, because it is a basketball-loving part of the world, and there is so many tremendous players in the history, but also now we have two of the very, very best. But favorite?
Dirk?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say who's the best here. Like I said, there are so many great talents that come out of here. Obviously, we're all students of the game, you know, watching Divac and Djordjevic, Danilovic, I think, who I've seen here earlier. There's just so many great players to come through. One of my favorites, Peja Stojakovic, obviously played with him in Dallas. We won the championship together. And but like I said, like Steve said, there's just so many great talents, so many legends that carried the game, that made the game popular here in this region, and made it one of the biggest sports there is.
Thank you. Bill?
I think Dražen Petrovic was one of the best. I remember watching him, and the American coaches didn't really give him the respect at that time, and he was amazing. And I thought he would have been one of the all-time greats, and his work ethic and his shooting capability, like Steph Curry type shooting range. I think Vlade did a good job when he came to the Lakers at that time, and brought a huge awareness, and his personality was helpful. As far as like smaller guards, like I think Goran and Tony Parker, to me, are two of the best smaller guards ever from Europe. And then I just think Luka is going to end up one of the best players in history ever. Mm-hmm. You know, as he's getting better, he's getting more confident. Like, and I always, when I think of Luka, I think of, there's a certain mentality, and you know, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Luka are like so competitive. Like it's almost an imbalance. We're on the court that's like at the highest level, and he has that natural. So I think he's gonna be one of the best players in the history of the game. So,
thank you. Bob, you have to answer.
Huh?
You have to answer.
I'm going to say one.
Okay.
I'm going to say my idol was Predrag Danilović, and then I love to watch Toni Kukoc because he was lefty, same as me. So, you know, those two. But everybody everybody from this region. They make they were a big inspiration in all the, you know, for me, for the young players. So,
thank you. Now, we have overstayed our welcome. I'm sorry about that, but I believe you guys enjoyed today's panel. Give a big round of applause, a shout out for our panelists. Thank you. Hvala. Anya?
Right
Thank
here.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing panel indeed. We really loved every second of it.
You're amazing.
Aleš, great moderation. Thank you. And amazing guests. Just loved it. Thank you.